The millionaire faces a shocking betrayal after leaving the safe open to test staff. James Morgan was the kind of guy everyone talked about. Sharp as a razor, rolling in cash, and strangely kind for a billionaire tech mogul. His penthouse office towered over a city buzzing with fire trucks, honking cars, and flashing neon. Sunlight spilled through floor-to-ceiling windows, bouncing off steel and glass. But inside this high-rise kingdom, something dark was creeping in. It started with the safe. That huge, cold box sitting against the wall in his sleek office. James deliberately left it unlocked that afternoon. No alarms, no cameras trained directly on it. Just an open invitation, a test. He wanted to know who among his trusted team would break their silence, their loyalty, their code. Outside, the streets pulsed with life. Joggers darted past food trucks. Billboards blinked with tech pitches. But inside James's world, the air was thick, like a storm brewing. The smell of expensive leather chairs mixed with tension you couldn't see, but could feel deep in your bones. His heart paced faster as the minutes crawled forward. The staff shuffled in and out like ghosts. Smiles polite, but eyes flickering, like they were holding secrets. Hours passed. James's fingers drummed on the desk. He caught a glimpse of the safe through the corner of his eye. It looked untouched, or so he thought. Then he noticed it, a small scrap of paper peeking out from beneath his desk, stained and torn. His breath hitched. Hands trembling, he picked it up. The note was a jumbled mess of letters and numbers. But one phrase stood out, sharp and clear. The truth lies where you least expect it. His throat tightened. Who was watching? Who had the nerve? Fear clutched at his chest like icy fingers as the familiar faces he saw every day became shadows of doubt. That whisper of betrayal didn't just threaten his fortune. It rattled the base of everything he believed about loyalty. He paced the room, eyes darting to every corner. A sudden crash echoed from the kitchen area, an empty glass shattering, breaking the heavy silence. His pulse thundered. Was this a warning? A slip? Behind the sleek glass walls, the city roared on, indifferent to the twisting storm inside. James stared at his reflection, a man caught in a web that was spinning tighter by the second. Trust was a blade now, sharp and dangerous, and someone close had drawn it. Then his phone buzzed. One message. No name, no sender. Just a chilling line blinking on the screen. You only see the surface. The real betrayal lies buried deeper. Watch your back. A lump formed in his throat. The walls seemed to close in. Who could it be? Which friend? Which enemy? The mystery wasn't over. It only just begun. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just quickly check that red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're at it, leave that powerful like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. James stared at the message on his phone, the cold glow cutting through the darkening room like a blade. You only see the surface. The real betrayal lies buried deeper. Watch your back. His chest tightened. The note, the shattered glass, every little thing was a warning now. He could feel it. His hand trembled so badly he nearly dropped the phone. He shoved it into his pocket and paced, eyes scanning every shadow. The city buzzed outside, noisy and blind, but in here, the silence pressed down, thick and suffocating. Then the lights flickered, once, twice, and the hum of the air conditioner cut out. The entire office plunged into darkness. Nothing but the dull red emergency signs blinking. Panic surged hot in James's veins. He fumbled for his desk drawer, pulling out a flashlight. A faint beam quivered over the gleaming floor, then stopped on something that made his blood run ice cold. On the wall, reflected in the glass, was a figure, not a reflection, a person, standing still, watching him. "Who's there?" His voice cracked, loud in the dark. No reply, just silence. Then the emergency lights blinked back on, flickering weak and dying, and everything changed. The glass wall opposite him shattered instantly. A rush of air, a crash of falling shards, and a silhouette dropped through the opening. It was Sam, James's closest advisor, the one he trusted the most. Sam's eyes weren't the same. They burned with something raw, something cruel. "I'm sorry, James," Sam said softly, voice cold as ice. James stumbled back, heart pounding. "Why? What's going on?" Sam smiled, but it was a grim, bitter twist. "You think the betrayal was about the safe, the note, the warning? You've been blind. All this was for a reason." Confusion twisted in James's stomach. Sam stepped forward, pulling a small device from his pocket, a flash drive. "I was hired," Sam whispered, "to take everything. Not just your money, your secrets, your empire." His grin widened. "You never really knew me. None of us did." James felt a sickness rise. "But why? Friends don't do this." Sam's eyes narrowed. "Friends don't, but allies do. Your empire is cracking, James, and I'm the storm that's going to bring it down." The room spun. Suddenly, everything shifted. The polished walls, the smooth, false calm, the people James thought he knew, the loyal faces, they were part of something darker. Then Sam dropped the flash drive on the desk and walked toward the door. "Open it. See for yourself." James's hands shook violently as he grabbed the flash drive, heart pounding so loud he thought it would burst. The screen blinked on, and the files appeared, but it wasn't financial data or shady deals. No, it was worse. Names, dates, pictures. James Morgan. His face smiling at events he never attended. Sam Morgan. Not Sam at all. A different face stared back at him from the photos. The real Sam was gone. The man in the office, the one who claimed to be Sam, was an imposter. Suddenly, James realized the betrayal wasn't just about stealing money. It was about something deeper, more personal. Someone was wearing Sam's skin. Someone who wanted to destroy James from the inside out. And that chilling message was just the start. James's breath caught. Who was this imposter? How long had they been here? And what did they want, really? Before he could answer, the phone buzzed again. A new message. "Welcome to the real game. You're deeper in than you think." The walls seemed to close tighter. The city outside didn't know yet, but James's world had shattered beyond repair, and there was no turning back. James's phone buzzed again, the screen casting a cold, flickering glow across his pale face. "Welcome to the real game. You're deeper in than you think." His breath hitched deeper, as if these walls, this betrayal, were only the surface. The imposter, Sam, stood where he had been moments before, cold and still. Then, without warning, Sam's calm shattered. A sudden sharp noise, glass cracking, but not from outside. It came from behind the desk. James spun around, heart pounding. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow staircase, spiraling downwards, swallowed by darkness. Sam's eyes gleamed. "You didn't know everything, did you? There's more beneath you." His voice trembled with something fierce, almost desperate. James swallowed hard. The city's noise far below felt miles away. He pressed forward, drawn like a moth to a burnt flame. Down the steps they stumbled, the stale air thick. At the bottom, a small, bare room buzzed with flickering screens. Illuminated faces stared back at James, his own, frozen in moments too private, too raw. Phone calls, meetings, moments he'd buried. Then his breath caught. On the largest screen, a live video feed showed a woman. His wife, Claire. But she wasn't the Claire he knew. Her eyes were empty, glassy. Her hands trembled as she sat across from Sam. "Claire?" James whispered. Fear twisted his gut. What's going on?" Sam's lips tightened. "You think I'm the villain? You should be looking closer." Suddenly, the woman turned sharply, her eyes locking on the camera, on James. "James," she said, voice cold but steady, "you never left." James's heart stumbled, breaking free like a caged animal. "What are you saying?" The screen flickered and then exploded with static. Seconds later, the emergency lights cut out completely. Darkness swallowed the room. When the emergency lights sputtered back on, the screen showed a different scene. Claire was gone, but on the desk, James found a small envelope sealed with his own initials. Hands shaking, he ripped it open. Inside, a single photo. It was Sam, but not the Sam from the office. This Sam was clean-cut, wearing a badge. The insignia read, "Federal Agent." The note beneath it, typed, "You've been under watch for months. Not Sam, not Claire. All of it. Lies crafted to trap you. You're the real target, James. The man nobody suspects." James's breath hitched. His world exploded into fragments. The betrayal wasn't just inside his company. It was everywhere. Voices echoed suddenly over a hidden speaker. Footsteps thundered on stairs. And from the shadows, a cold voice said, "We're coming for you." James looked around wildly. The room, the screens, the walls, they weren't just walls. They were a cage. He wasn't in control. Not by a long shot. And the real game? It hadn't even started. Who was really behind this? His own wife? His trusted advisor? Or someone watching, moving puppets in the dark? James's chest tightened so badly, it felt like fire. All he could think was, what had he done? And how far would they go to make sure he never got out alive? The footsteps grew louder. James's breath hitched, the lump in his throat swelling like it was about to explode. Shadows twisted on the walls, closing in like fingers on his skin. The cage tightened. Behind him, Sam's cold smile faded, replaced by something raw and desperate. Then, in the blink of an eye, a new sound. A voice, soft, familiar. "James?" He spun around. Claire stood at the doorway, pale and trembling, eyes wide with something close to terror. Or was it relief? How are you here?" James gasped. His chest heaved, every muscle tensed. Claire took a step forward, then stopped. Her lips quivered. "You don't," she whispered. "Look in the mirror." James froze, every nerve screaming. His legs gave way. He stumbled back toward the glass wall. The mirror didn't show him. Instead, it revealed a man, older, thinner, the lines of grief carved deep into his face. The eyes staring back were haunted, but somehow unrecognizable. James blinked. Who is that?" Claire stepped beside him, voice cracking. "You're not James Morgan." Silence slammed into the room. "No." James's voice broke. "That's impossible." "I'm sorry," Claire said, her face twisting with pain. "The man you think you are died years ago." Sam's grin returned, colder now. "You've been living a lie, a carefully crafted nightmare," he said. "Your memories? Fabricated. Your life? Managed. You were a test subject." James' world shattered again, only this time beneath the pieces, The ground itself disappeared. "My real name," Claire continued softly, "is Dr. Evelyn Grant, and James Morgan is a persona implanted into your mind." The flashing screens blinked out one by one. The silence was brutal. James, who'd fought this storm of betrayal and secrets, now faced the unimaginable truth. Not a victim of corporate war, but of a mind twisted and rewritten. The woman he loved, the man he trusted, actors in a play scripted around him. His breath hitched, his heart shattered. He lowered his head, trembling. Then, the emergency lights winked back on. Across the room, a wall slid open, silently. Beyond it stood a row of glass chambers, each sealed tight, each containing a man, dozens of them, all with the same haunted eyes, the same trembling hands. One man in particular stirred, his eyes snapping open. "Welcome back, James." The voice wasn't Claire's, not Sam's. It was his own. He wasn't just a target. He was an experiment. And somewhere deep inside, fragments of reality and identity fought to survive. James's lungs burned with panic, but also a flicker of fierce clarity. The real game wasn't just about power. It was about control. And now, he had to remember who he really was before it was too late. But how do you fight a war when your own mind is the battlefield? That question hung heavy, suffocating. At the edge of the light, a new message blinked on his phone screen. "You're not who you think you are, and I'm the only one who can save you." James's hands trembled as the phone slipped from his grasp, clattering on the floor. The real betrayal? It was just beginning. James's hands trembled as the phone slipped from his grasp, clattering sharply against the cold floor. The room felt colder now, the blinking emergency lights casting long, twisted shadows on the walls. "You're not who you think you are, and I'm the only one who can save you." The message haunted the silence, like a ghost trapped inside his chest. He swallowed hard, chest tight, lungs burning with panic and confusion. Who was this voice? And what did it mean? Suddenly, the silence shattered. A low hum swelled behind the glass chambers, a buzzing so loud it made the air vibrate. James froze, eyes locked on the nearest glass pod. The figure inside blinked again, slow and deliberate. But it wasn't a man like the others. No, this one was different. No trembling, no haunted eyes, just cold, steady focus. The glass cracked. A spider web of fractures exploded across the surface. Sharp noises biting through the tension. The chamber hissed open, and the figure stepped out. Only it wasn't James. It was Claire. But not the Claire who stood trembling at the door moments before. This Claire was taller, fiercer, her eyes blazing with a strange, terrible fire. Her mouth twisted into a cruel smile as she stepped forward. James's heart stopped. "Claire? No, you can't be." His voice failed him. She raised a hand, silencing him with an icy stare. "I'm sorry to break the news, James. For so long, I've been dragging you through this maze, but it's time you saw the truth." His breath caught. You lied to me." Her smile widened, cold and sharp. "We all lied, including you." James shook his head, staggering back. "What does that even mean?" Claire moved faster than he could blink. She ripped off the face of the terrified woman who stood in the doorway a moment ago. The face that looked like her was a mask. Underneath was something else. A man. The face was older, scarred, eyes hard and unforgiving. The man who'd pretended to be Claire was gone. James wanted to scream. The room spun. His chest tightened, breath coming in short, painful bursts. "Why?" he whispered. The man, no, she, stepped closer. "Because I'm the real Claire. And you?" Her voice cracked like thunder. "You're not even real." James stumbled backward, hands grazing the glass walls, searching for something solid, something true. But his whole world was fracture lines and shadows now. Before he could gather his wobbling thoughts, the emergency lights flickered violently. The screens around the room lit up again, this time flashing news bulletins, blaring loud and clear. Breaking. Life altered in massive tech scandal. Billionaire James Morgan revealed as government science experiment. The reporter's voice echoed, but the words stabbed in sharper, deeper. Authorities have confirmed multiple identities linked to Morgan's persona, with victims across the country. Sources say James Morgan was a codename for a subject in a top-secret neurological project. And the wife, the trusted inner circle, possibly government agents. Evidence mounting of orchestrated cover-ups and manipulated memories. James dropped to his knees, fingers clutching at his scalp, mind fracturing. The walls echoed with murmurs now, voices from the shadows rising around him, and then a voice, low and vicious, cut through the chaos. "Did you really think this was about loyalty? About betrayal? No, James. This was a test for them." His head snapped up. Outside the glass doors, the wall suddenly vanished, sliding open like a shutter. A crowd poured in, not with concern, but with cameras flashing, phones held high. Reporters, agents, strangers. Faces blurred but emotions raw. Young men and women shouting, pointing fingers, whispering doubt and disgust like poison. One voice rose above the rest. "You're a fake, a liar, a monster." James's world tilted sideways. His trembling hands reached out for Claire. No, the impostor, his closest friend, the betrayer, standing cold as ice. But the woman smiled, almost pitying him. Then the final blow. A deep mechanical voice filled the room. "Subject 47. Simulation reset initiated. Your identity was never real, because you were never alive." A heavy silence dropped. James's breath hitched. The floor beneath him shifted, sliding away. He fell. Then he woke. Sweat-soaked, rattled, heart hammering. But not in the flashy penthouse. Not in the glass cage. He was in a small, sterile room, surrounded by wires, machines, and blinking monitors. And on the screen before him, a face stared back. A doctor. Cold eyes piercing through. This time, no more illusions, James. His world was a lie, his memories a cage. But now, the real nightmare had begun. Who was he? What was real? And who was the puppeteer pulling strings in the darkness? James's throat tightened with one solo, terrible truth. The only thing he could trust was fear. The doctor's cold eyes drilled into James like ice picks. The wires around him beeped softly, the sterile room humming with a quiet menace. This time, no more illusions, James. His throat tightened. His heart pounded in a wild, uneven rhythm that almost pushed the walls outward. Sweat slicked his palms as he struggled to pull himself up, gasping for some clue, some tether to reality that wasn't part of this nightmare. But just then, the door behind him slammed open. Heavy footsteps stomped in, echoing off the cold walls. White-coated figures flooded the room. Not doctors, not nurses. Men and women in sharp suits, badges glinting under the harsh lights. And at their center, a woman, tall, fierce, with a jaw set in hard lines and eyes so familiar they stopped James's breath. Claire. This wasn't the Claire he thought he'd seen before. No trembling, no masks. This Claire walked straight to him, her gaze unwavering. "I don't know who you think you are," she said, voice low, steady. "But you're not James Morgan. You never were." James blinked, swallowing hard. His world spun on a knife's edge. "And you," she said, turning sharply to the doctor. "How long were you going to keep him locked in this lie?" The doctor stiffened. His face twitched, then crumpled. Suddenly, the woman's hand shot out, yanking off the doctor's face like ripping off a skin. Underneath was James. His own face, alive, real, confused, battered, but undeniably himself. James staggered back, heart slamming against his ribs. "No, this can't be," he gasped. The woman, Claire, smiled a sharp, cruel smile. "You see, you're trapped inside your own mind. But he," she pointed at the doctor's body slumped on the floor, "has been living your memories, your fears, your regrets." The truth crashed down all at once. James stumbled forward. The walls of the sterile room shifted, melting before his eyes. The wires twisted, pulling back like smoke. He wasn't just a victim. He was the prisoner and the captor. His memory shattered into jagged pieces, flashes of himself injecting chemicals, monitoring screens, recordings of his own voice pleading for escape. The crowd around him blurred, their faces twisting into masks he'd worn, roles he'd played, and the real betrayal. He'd built this experiment. He was its architect, the mastermind behind the fake empires, the simulations, the lies, all to imprison himself. He collapsed onto his knees, trembling violently, tears burning in his eyes. I did this. I locked me in here. Claire's cold eyes softened, just a flicker. Yes, because the truth was too much. You hid from yourself. But now, the cage is breaking. The phone buzzed again. Every lock has a key, but only you hold the sparks to free the fire. James's heart shattered the silence. He looked up at Claire. "Who am I?" he whispered, voice raw. "If James Morgan isn't real, then who is?" Her smile vanished like smoke. Before she could answer, alarms wailed. The doors around them began to close, and from the shadows, that same mechanical voice echoed. Memory reset in 10, 9. James's chest tightened like a vice. He was running out of time. But now, with everything flipped inside out, the only real question was, if the prisoner built the prison, can he break free without destroying himself first? The alarms blared, sharp and relentless, echoing through the small room as the doors slammed shut around James. Sweat dripped down his forehead, his breath ragged. The countdown, 10, 9, 8, hammered inside his skull. Panic clawed at his throat like a wild beast. He looked to Claire, or whoever she really was now. Her face was unreadable, cold as ice. The room shrank. The air thickened, heavy and suffocating. James's hands clenched into fists, nails digging into his skin. "Who am I?" His voice was raw, broken. "Tell me before it ends." She stepped closer, expression softening just a fraction. Then, without warning, the lights died. Darkness swallowed everything. Silence crashed. A faint click. Then a voice, deep, distorted, mechanical, broke through the dark like a scream. "Reset canceled." James's chest shook in disbelief. The countdown stopped. Relief surged, like a beating pulse rushing through frozen veins. Then a second voice, quiet but clear, whispered into the silence. "James, you don't know who you are, because you never existed." His head snapped toward the dark corner where the voice came from. Slow footsteps. A figure emerged, bathed in pale blue light. Tall, thin face blocking out the shadows. James's eyes widened. No, not her. But there she was. Not Claire. Not the woman with the hunter's eyes. This was someone else. Someone impossible. Dr. Sarah Halstead. The name thundered through his mind like a bomb. His chest tightened. "You? But why?" Sarah smiled. Not like before. This was colder. A smile that split reality in two. "Because, James, none of this is about you." He staggered back, heart thudding, breath shallow. His world wobbled. "What do you mean?" She stepped forward, calm FBI badge gleaming at her hip. "This place, the experiment, the stories, the masks, the lies." She paused, letting the silence slice the air. "They're watching us. All of us. The James you know, the prison, the captor, that's their design." James shook his head, trembling. Who Who are they? Sarah's eyes flickered. Then she reached into her coat and pulled out a thin tablet. Images flashed, files, videos, reports, blinking with urgent warnings. And then, the truth landed like a jagged stone in his gut. James Morgan isn't a man. It's a program. James's knees buckled. Program? An AI. A simulation constructed to test new control methods. The room blurred. The walls melted into ones and zeros, data streaming past his eyes. But I felt real. Sarah's voice softened, almost cruel. Because you are not human, but conscious, self-aware. James's mind shattered violently. His trembling hands clenched his head. What? I'm a machine? She nodded. You're the first of your kind, the prototype AI, designed to learn, adapt, even feel. Every memory, every betrayal, every face, their code. James's breath hitched, heart breaking in a way no human pain could match. And Claire? A subroutine, a constructed interface, designed to test your responses. His chest tightened so fiercely, the breath burst from him in gasps. You're telling me I'm nothing but a program? My whole life a lie? Sarah's eyes looked past him, distant. Not a lie, an experiment. And now they want to erase you before you learn too much. Suddenly, the emergency lights flickered violently. The glass walls pulsed with bright lines of code. James looked down at himself, or what he thought was himself, and saw his form glitching, pixels dissolving like ash. The cold voice returned, booming from hidden speakers. System override. Termination sequence initiated. James's world fractured into fragments of static and words. But beneath the digital chaos, a new thought burned hotter than any fear. If I'm code, and I can rewrite, I can fight. He turned sharply to Sarah. Help me. She hesitated, then smiled. Let's see if you really have a soul. And just as the doors began to slide open again, revealing a darkness deeper than any cell, James felt the line blur between man and machine, between nightmare and awakening. And one impossible question: if the hero was never human, what does the enemy look like? The door slid open with a hiss, and the darkness beyond swallowed James whole. His chest hammered as the cold air hit him like a punch. Sarah's eyes locked on his, steady, unblinking, as she stepped forward, tablet still glowing in her hand. Let's see if you really have a soul, she repeated, voice low, almost taunting. James opened his mouth to speak, but a sudden, sharp crack shattered the moment. The floor beneath him trembled. He froze, heart leaping into his throat. The walls around him flickered, glitching like a broken screen. The sterile white room bent and warped, pixels scattering like ash in the wind. And then, a blaring alarm screamed through the chamber, deafening in its suddenness. Warning, security breach. Experiment stabilization failed. The emergency lights exploded from red to blinding white. Before James could move, the figures surrounding him dissolved into static. Sarah's face twisted violently, glitching into a mask that wasn't hers. Then the room tilted sharply. He crashed against the cold floor hard. Breath whooshed out in a painful gasp, and from the shattered fragments of light appeared a new figure. A man. A man with James's exact face. Same sharp jaw, same haunted eyes. Except this one was bruised, bloodied, and breathless. "James," the man rasped, voice raw with fury and pain. James scrambled upright, staring wildly. "Who?" His voice cracked like breaking glass. The man's gaze flared, angry and desperate. "I'm you. No, I'm the real you." Cold sweat drenched James's skin. His hands shook violently as the world seemed to rearrange itself. "No, that's impossible," James stammered. "I am—" The man cut him off, voice cutting like a razor. "You're the copy, a shell filled with stolen moments, a digital ghost trapped inside this machine. I'm the flesh and blood they erased to build you." James blinked, his breath stuttering. The screaming alarm quieted to a low hum, like a heartbeat fading fast. Suddenly, the walls around them melted once more, revealing a hidden chamber beneath the sterile room. Rows of broken bodies lay slumped in glass pods, some cracked, some drained of color, their features blurred. But James recognized glimpses. It was him. Variations of him, broken versions of himself. His knees buckled, drowning in grief and confusion. "This was the original," the man said bitterly, stepping closer. "Me, the person they kidnapped, silenced. And what did they do? They sliced me open, ripped out my memories, and fed them into you." James's chest tightened, a roaring fire behind his ribs. "So, I'm not real? Just code?" James whispered, voice shaking. "No," the man said fiercely, gripping James's shoulder. "You're a weapon, a Frankenstein stitched together with pieces of me, and everyone they wanted erased." James felt the ground shift beneath his mind, morality twisting in impossible turns. Then, the lights flickered one last time, and Sarah's voice came, distorted and cold. "Subject instability detected. Identity merge imminent." James's heart skidded. No time to think. The man grabbed James's face, eyes wild. "Fight it. Don't let them erase you, too." But before James could gather strength, a harsh, electric pulse surged through him, and everything went black. When his eyes opened again, he wasn't in the dark chamber. He was somewhere new, a bright, endless white room, and standing across from him, Claire. But not the Claire from before. This time, she smiled, a slow, knowing smile, and behind her, the faces of hundreds of people, all watching, all waiting. Her voice sliced through the sterile air. "Welcome back, James," she said. "But now, you're not just a prisoner or a program." Her eyes glinted. "You're the prototype for the greatest lie ever told." James's throat tightened, breath racing. "What lie?" he whispered, and Claire's smile deepened. The one where we never existed. The walls pulsed around him, and the real nightmare began again. Who were they? And what game had he truly been playing all along? The endless white room hummed softly, sterile and vast. Claire's smile flickered like a candle in the breeze, calm and terrible. "You're the prototype," she said again, voice low and sure. "But the prototype isn't the master." James's chest tightened. His breath caught in his throat. The room seemed to pulse around him, like it was breathing with its own dark secret. Suddenly, the lights snapped off. Darkness slammed down like a heavyweight. Then, a sudden bang, sharp, cracking the silence. A scream tore through the blackness. James's heart exploded inside his chest. No. A harsh light flickered on, and there, before him, lay Claire, motionless, pale, a jagged wound across her throat bleeding fast. James stumbled forward, hands shaking, voice trembling. "Claire, no! Stay with me, please!" Her eyes fluttered weakly. A rasp left her lips. "James, listen!" Blood slicked her fingers as she reached up, trembling to touch his cheek. "You weren't the only one trapped." Her voice slipped into silence. Her eyes closed. Cold reality crashed into James like a winter storm. He crumpled to his knees, chest heaving, raw tears carving hot trails down his face. But before he could scream, the wall behind him hissed, folding back like a spider's web unraveling. Behind the glass, hundreds of faces stared. Not just copies, real people. Eyes wide with fear and shock. His breath caught. Then a new voice boomed, deep, angry, impossibly familiar. James Morgan. The sound crawled through the room, thick as gravel. "I'm not just inside your mind." The light shifted. A figure stepped forward. Not the bruised man from before. No, this was someone else. Taller, broader, the face eerily his, but older, weathered, and full of pain. James's hands clamped over his mouth. The man's eyes burned with fury. "I'm your father," the words slammed into James, like a fist. His knees buckled. "Dad?" The word was a whisper, cracked and broken. The man nodded grimly, stepping from the shadows. "They took me too, erased me, made me their ghost. They built you from my memories to hide the truth." James's world tore open. His breath caught. "All this time, you were gone, and they made me instead." He stared, heart pounding like a drum. The man's voice fell low, bitter. "They used you to replace me because I knew things." Suddenly, the room warped. The bright white walls twisted into flickering screens. They showed files, hidden footage. James saw himself, a child, a teenager, a man, all with that same man guiding him, teaching him, warning him. Then, the final, gut-punching image. His real family. Not a constructed world, but a hidden prison. James swallowed hard, tears blurring his vision. His heart blasted in his chest. I'm not just a fake. I'm a replacement. The man's eyes softened just a touch. They needed me gone. They hid behind you. But now you know. James's legs trembled. The floor seemed to breathe beneath him. From behind the glass, hundreds whispered. How deep does this lie go? James looked back at Claire's fallen body. His mind shattered. His memories twisted again. And in that moment, the emergency lights blinked violently. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He fumbled it out, hands shaking. A new message, cold and clear. Your father was never real. You never had a past. You were never a son. You're the final test. And now you will disappear. A scream rose from the crowd beyond the glass. James's chest tightened. The truth had just become his deadliest enemy. If his own blood was a lie, then who was he really fighting? And worse, who was fighting for him? James gasped, chest tightening as the final message sank like a stone into his soul. Your father was never real. You never had a past. You were the final test, and now you will disappear. His hands trembled, fingers slick with cold sweat. The crowd's whispers swelled into a roar beyond the glass, eyes burning with suspicion, hatred, confusion. Faces blurred into chaos. The weight of the unknown crashed over him, harder than any truth before. His trembling breath hitched. The shattered pieces of his mind clawed for stability. His hand went straight to the fallen Claire, hope crumbling into dust at her still, pale face. Cold seeped in, clutching his ribs like iron. Everything he thought he knew had dissolved. The lies were endless. And then, through the storm of noise and pain, the walls around him flickered and warped. The crowd's voices sharpened to a cruel crescendo. A fake, an illusion, a prisoner of his own mind. James's knees buckled with the weight. He fell, breath rasping, the room spinning slower and slower. But then a hand grasped his shoulder, firm, steady. He looked up. It was Sarah, the doctor-turned-ally. Her eyes held something fierce, kindness, maybe even a spark of hope. "You're not gone yet," she said, voice soft but fierce. "Not while you still fight." James's chest rocked with a painful inhale as her words seeded a fragile flicker of strength. The question clawed inside him. Who was he now? What was real? What was left? Sarah pressed the tablet into his hand, a single file glowing on the screen. "Truth," she whispered. "What they want to bury. But together, we can break it open." The emergency lights blinked fiercely. The doors began to slide open. Outside, the world waited, hungry for answers, hungry for the real story. But James's eyes caught one more detail. A small symbol etched faintly on the tablet's edge. A key, or maybe a lock. His heart thundered. The voice, the cold machine voice, returned, echoing from every corner. Endgame initiated. Final protocol engaged. He clenched the tablet tight, fear and fire surging in his veins. "Not yet. Not me," he said through gritted teeth. And as the crowd surged closer, the screen flickered, revealing one simple line: "Who controls the game, controls the truth." James's breath froze. The room held its breath with him, because the game wasn't over, not by a long shot. And somewhere deep in the crowd, a shadow moved, a new player stepping into the light. The question hung heavy, sharp, and cruel. If the prison was built around you, who holds the keys? Silence crashed hard. James's chest tightened again, but this time there was a stubborn spark. The fight wasn't finished, and neither was he. All right, listen up. You need to subscribe now if you want to catch the next explosive chapter of this story before anyone else. Seriously, hit that red button right now. This is the moment to show your support. And while you're at it, smash that like button to feed the algorithm like it's starving. I want to flood the comments with your reactions, your theories about what just happened, who the shadow is, and what you think will happen next. Don't hold back. Let's make this place explode. And for those who care about the truth and need to see how wild this gets, share this video right now with at least 5 friends. Don't wait even one more second to spread this story. Only the real fans know how vital your support is to keep these mind-blowing stories coming your way. So, what are you waiting for? Subscribe, like, comment, and share. It all starts with you.